Welcome to Shad Life. Coffee, so good. Do you ever wonder when you go to a trail, start unloading your bike and getting ready to do your ride, how those trails got there? Well, that's what this video is about. I want to talk about trails, how they got there, advocacy, and what role you should be playing in all of this. So let's get to it. These days, it's easy to take mountain bike trails for granted. Like, there are so many trails now, and you could just drive to a trailhead, park. There's usually some type of app or maps that tell you exactly where to go. A lot of times there's facilities at that trailhead. You unload your bike, get on your bike, and go ride some awesome mountain bike trails. It's easy to kind of forget how we got here, and it's also easy to forget how we continue to be here and how new trails and new projects develop, because it's already there. But if we go back in time, when I first started mountain biking, trails didn't exist, not like they do today. Most trails, you're either taking your mountain bike on like hiking trails or equestrian trails, sometimes even on like snowmobile trails or ATV, or ATVs weren't super popular back then, they were just starting to get popular. But we had to kind of find trails, or we would kind of go hack through and build our own rogue trails without any clue of what we were doing. Well, what started to happen was land managers, if you don't know what they are going to be whoever is responsible for that piece of land. And it's usually going to be either a municipal park board or city park board or a county park board, and sometimes state or DNR, right? And sometimes national parks. There's different levels of who owns that land. And when mountain bikers started going in there and just making trail or riding these hiking trails and other trails, there was conflict. And so they were like, we don't want this new thing to take over our trails. We don't want all these dangerous bikers. We don't want all the erosion of the land, them skidding on their tires, causing rutting and things like that. And believe it or not, that was actually happening, especially when mountain bikers would go and make their own trail without any idea of what they were doing. They would cause serious erosion issues, especially when you start making trails straight up fall lines and stuff. It'd get rutted out and things like that, and the rain would come and just wash it away. I'll do another video. I've actually done a couple so far on my channel, talking a little bit about trail sustainability and things like that, and how trails are designed to minimize that kind of stuff. But back in the early days, none of that stuff existed. And then states and cities and counties started saying no biking. They started banning biking in all these parks. Well, that's when advocacy groups started to evolve. And groups like the one I belong to, Minnesota Off-Road Cyclists, and other groups all around the country, and then an international group called IMBA, International Mountain Bike Association. All these groups kind of came out of that, and their main goal was to gain access to these different parks and these different areas for mountain biking. And it wasn't an easy task. It was very, very challenging for that to happen, because there was a lot of resistance and environmentalists and things like that. Well, believe it or not, most of us that have ever gone in and built mountain bike trails and advocated for them and stuff are environmentalists, right? So we actually had in our own interest, if we're going to make a trail, to have as minimal an impact as we can when we make those trails. And so from that point on, it was game on. organizations sprouted up all over the country and world, and got permission to build trails and so on. And it was quite an ordeal. It took a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of volunteers, a lot of people to really put in that effort and really push for this to happen. And then on top of it, we needed to learn how to build trails in such a way that they had minimal impact on the environment. And so there's all these kind of guidelines about how much slope you can have, how you design the trail, you have grade reversals, all this stuff. And again, I'll do a separate video on that. In the meantime, I'll just link a current video I have up in the corner that talks a little bit about that I did last year, or no, it was earlier this year. It's almost going to be last year because we're in December, right? So, one of the things I want to talk about here is what role can you play? So there are really two big parts to each trail. One of them you don't really have to worry about too much because you pay taxes, and that covers the land manager part of things, right? So that's why we pay taxes. It helps fund parks and recreation and a lot of things like that. But on the other side of that is the very people that go in, shovels on dirt, making these trails happen, maintaining these trails, upkeeping these trails. Your taxes don't pay for those people, right? And they don't pay for the tools, and they don't pay for the professional organizations that come in and build these trails. Sometimes there's agreements where the land manager will put in a certain amount of money, and then the organization will put in another part of the money. And one of the things these organizations will do is they'll do a lot of grant writing, and companies, I honestly like REI, right? Even bike companies, Specialized, Trek, whatever, companies will donate to these and put money into these grants, things like that. Well, you need a group of people to write these grants and to ask for this money and so on. It doesn't just happen. Trek doesn't just come along and go, oh yeah, here, we'll give you this money over here. You have to go and prove, have an idea of what you're going to do, prove that you're going to do it, and that the money's going to actually go into the trail, all this stuff. It takes a lot of energy and work to do that kind of thing. So the trails do need money, and they need a lot of it, and more so if there's professional built stuff. And as we get into, more jumps and bridges and wooden features and platforms, staging platforms that have different offshoots, things like that. Think Bentonville, right? Tons of money going to Bentonville. Fortunately for Bentonville, they have the Walton family just dumping money into there. Most trails don't have that benefit. It's us, the riders, that are the ones that need to help contribute to the very trails we ride. So it's kind of my point here is when you go ride a trail, right? Look around a little bit. Usually the organization that helps, maintain those trails, build them, things like that, they'll have signage somewhere on the trailhead sign or whatever, and look for that sign and find out who that organization is, and then do what you can to help them out. Donations are usually the easiest way to help them out of any kind of amount, $5, $10, whatever. If the trailhead has a parking fee, most of the time that parking fee is there to make money for the trails. So don't complain if you have to pay a parking fee, because I know specifically up in Cuyuna, where I ride all the time and have many videos, their parking lots are super nice. They've got bathrooms, they've got changing areas, they've got tools, they've got water, and the main trailhead there has a beach and everything. Super nice place to go and hang out. And the fee that you're paying is paying not only just for those facilities, but it's also paying to help maintain the trails. So complaining about a parking fee at a trailhead is something shouldn't really be doing, because that fee is helping provide for the very thing you're going to do, right? And then the next way to donate is to the organization directly. If you can't donate, think about volunteering, whether you get on their local board or get on their work crews to help dig in the dirt and maintain things. They'll teach you. You don't have to have a bunch of experience. Usually these crews, if you're new, they'll have you do kind of the more basic stuff, or they'll show you the correct way to do things. I know our organizations do that here. So yeah, get involved, volunteer, donate money, do what you can to support that organization, because those trails aren't just there magically. There's a lot of effort that gets put into them. And for people who are actually using the trails, it's really our job to contribute to the very thing we're going and doing. So I wouldn't worry too much about the land managers. The land managers, they're kind of taken care of, but the local organization who has to negotiate and work with the land manager, there is a strong relationship there. The organizations have to first gain access to be able to build mountain bike trail in the first place. That's usually the toughest thing, is getting that permission of, hey, we got to build it. You got to prove that you're going to have low environmental impact. You know what you're doing. That they've got to do studies usually to make sure there's no impact on certain wildlife, things like that. And so there's a whole process just to get trail put in. And sometimes they're like, well, there's a certain kind of tree in this area. We don't want you to build here because we don't want to harm the roots for these trees, and that's important, right? It's very important to kind of go at it. And that's why we don't want to just go out and build trail anywhere and everywhere and build them, straight up the hill where it's going to rut out and things like that when it rains and so on. So definitely, make an effort to try to understand at least what's going on with the trails and the organizations and things like that. And if you can contribute in any way, by all means do it. I'm heavily involved with MORC, that's the Minnesota Off-Road Cyclist. So many of you that watch my channel are local here to this area, or you're up in Cuyuna. That's the Cuyuna Lakes Mountain Bike Association. Support them. If you live over in the Duluth area here in Minnesota, so support COGS, right? If you live in Wisconsin, what is that one? The CAMBA, Chequamegon Area Mountain Bike Association, and then there's other ones, I don't remember all of them, down in the more southern parts of Wisconsin, right? If you live in Colorado, I know there's a couple of organizations there. Same with Arizona and Sedona. All of the areas that have mountain bike trails have some organization, usually nonprofit volunteer, that helps gain access and maintain all those trails. So there you have it. I really do appreciate your support for my channel. Please like and subscribe. Peace.